Did you know that data analysts spend about 80% of their time just cleaning the data? In this video, I'll show you how you can clean, validate, and fix messy real-world data in Excel fast. Whether you're dealing with duplicates, wrong formats, missing values, or inconsistent text, I've got you covered. So what you will learn in this tutorial? We will start with understanding briefly the need for data cleaning and also look at some examples of failures that took place due to bad data. We will then review the dataset used for data cleaning activities and detect common problems. We can uncover several issues just by visual inspection. Next, we will proceed with data cleaning activities I listed below, starting with removal of duplicate rows. Next, cleaning text data using trim function, fix inconsistent text using switch function, handle missing values, fix inconsistent dates, standardize category data, cleaning and fixing email IDs, and finally, fixing inconsistent phone numbers. So let's get started. I will now switch to the next sheet to briefly understand the need for data cleaning. One of the most important principles you learn in computer science is garbage in and garbage out, which is also called as GIGO. This is true even in the world of data analytics. Data cleaning matters because messy, inaccurate, or incomplete data leads to misleading insights and poor decisions. Garbage in, garbage out. Cleaning your data ensures your analysis is trustworthy, your models perform better, and your results actually reflect reality. Never skip this step. Your entire project's success depends on it. Let us now take a look at few examples of failures caused by bad data. NASA's Mars orbiter was lost due to unit mismatch, which resulted in a loss of $125 million. In the UK COVID reporting in 2020, around 16,000 cases were missed out of reporting because of Excel error. In 2003, in North America blackout, 50 million people had to suffer power outage due to data and monitoring issues. Lastly, in retail losses, companies waste millions of dollars due to inaccurate or duplicated customer data. Let us now start with the data cleaning activities. The first step is to import the data into the Excel sheet. You may have noticed that I've already imported the data into Excel sheet called original dataset. I have also made a copy of the data into another dataset called clean dataset. We will operate on this clean dataset worksheet. The entire dataset has been imported from a text file, and the fields of the dataset have been separated by comma. So this is essentially a comma separated text file. The entire data is in one of the columns. So let us split the data into multiple columns using the text to column feature of Excel. So first, let me select the entire data set as you can see here. Now click on the data tab on the top and then click the text to columns button. In the pop-up dialog, keep the selection to delimited. Click the next button, and then here under the delimiter section, click the comma checkbox and uncheck the tab. Now click next, and then finally click the finish button. Now as you can see, the comma separated fields have been split into multiple columns. You can also see that some of the columns like customer name and email IDs are partially hidden. So let us now auto-fit all these columns so that the hidden portion becomes visible. In order to do that, select the corner of the worksheet here and then move the mouse between the columns until you see a double-headed arrow and then double-click. At this point, all the columns have been auto-fit. Next, Let's do a quick visual inspection of the dataset and try to identify issues. This looks like a customer survey data which contains satisfaction score provided by the customer for the products they purchased. And also it contains customer details such as the customer name, email ID, gender, age, etc. Let me now apply filter to the column headers. Select any cell in the dataset. Click the Data tab at the top and then click the filter button. And then let us do a quick auto fit. Select the entire dataset and between two columns double click. If you notice, the dataset contains variety of data types. It has numbers, it has text, it has email IDs, it has phone numbers, and it also has dates. The first column, survey ID, is an integer column containing unique IDs. The customer name column contains text. It contains the names in lowercase, uppercase, mixed case, and you also might have noticed there are extra spaces between the first name and last name. The email ID column contains incomplete information and some of them contains errors as well. The gender column is a category data, which means it contains only a fixed number of values, but the values are non-standard. As you can see, we have values like F, M, female, and male. We need to standardize the F and M values. The age column contains negative numbers, text values, and also blanks. We need to impute the missing values for the blanks and decide what to do with the negative numbers. The city column looks more or less okay, except for the first value which shows a number. The feedback column shows dates in a non-standard format. We will standardize all these dates to display in a common standard format. The satisfaction score is also category data and shows data in a non-standard format. The phone number also needs standardization. As you can see, the phone number is in a variety of formats that requires standardization. The product category column contains typos. We will need to fix them. I did observe an issue in the gender column. As you can see, the gender column contains an item called email. This looks suspicious. Let me select the email and find out the row data. As you notice, the value for gender has appeared under the age column. The value for age has appeared under city column and so on. So essentially it looks like the row data has shifted by one column to the right. So let us quickly fix this issue. So select the row data starting from age till the product category, copy, and then paste it under the gender column. And the product category now contains the phone number. Now let us delete the value for product category, and in its place let me enter missing as its value. We can later decide what to do with this missing value. Let me now remove the gender filter. After the visual inspection, let us now find out if there are duplicate rows in the dataset. To identify the duplicates, let us take help of conditional formatting. The survey ID column is a unique column and is not supposed to contain duplicates. So let us find out if the survey ID column has duplicates. So in order to find that, select the survey ID column here, go to the Home tab, and then click on the Conditional Formatting button, highlight cell rules, and then click Duplicate Values. On the pop-up dialog, press OK. As you notice, the conditional formatting has highlighted the duplicate values for the survey ID column. Now let us see if these duplicate values have the entire rows duplicated. Now let me sort the survey ID column, click any cell in the survey ID, go to Data tab, and then click the Sort button which says Sort smallest to largest. If you notice, these two rows are duplicate. Similarly, we have duplicate rows here. So essentially, all the rows highlighted by conditional formatting contain duplicate rows. So let us remove the duplicate rows. So in order to remove the duplicate rows, select any cell in the sheet. Now, under the Data tab, we have a button called Remove Duplicates. Click the Remove Duplicates button. Keep the selection as it is in the pop-up dialog. Press OK. At this point, Excel has removed the 5 duplicate values and has retained the remaining unique values. In the next step, we will clean the customer name column. As you have noticed, the customer name column contains names in lowercase, in uppercase, and also in proper case. Additionally, there are spaces between the first name and last name, and there are also spaces at the end of the last name. So we will now trim all these spaces, and additionally, we will also convert the case to a proper case. So in order to do that, first let me insert a new column. So in order to insert the new column, select the column C, which is next to the customer name column, right click, and then click the insert button. This will insert a new blank column. Let me name the column as temp and press enter. Now in the cell C2, type is equal to trim, press tab. Now select the cell B2 for which we need to remove the spaces, close the bracket and press enter. The spaces between the name has now been removed. We can now apply the same function to the remaining cell. Now go to the corner of the cell and double click. You can notice that extra spaces between Bob Brown is removed and the spaces preceding the name Alice Wonderland has also been removed. In the next step, we need to convert this name to proper case. So what we will do is we will use the combination of function proper along with trim in order to achieve the result. So go to the cell C2, type proper and press tab, go to the edge of the cell and then close the bracket. So essentially what we are doing here is the trim function will remove the extra spaces between the names and the proper function will convert the resulting text into proper case. So let me press enter. Now you can see the name John Doe has been converted to proper case. Now go to the edge of the cell until you see the plus icon and then double click. This will now apply the combination of these two functions to the rest of the cells. And all the names have now been converted to proper case. Let us now copy the names in the column starting from the first name. Now press Ctrl, Shift and down arrow to select the entire column and then press Ctrl C. Go to the cell B2, right click and then paste the values. At this point, we have now converted all the names under customer column to proper case. We have no need for the temp column. So let me select the temp column, right click and delete. The next step after cleaning the customer names is to fix the inconsistency in the gender column. In the gender column, as you can see, we have category data as shown here. It contains value F, female, M and male. The values F and M are not standard values. We are now going to convert these values to female and male respectively. So in order to do that, we are going to take help of switch function. So let me first start by creating a new blank column. So select the age column next to the gender column, right click and select Insert. This will insert a temporary blank column. Let me again name this to temp. Now in the cell E2, type is equal to switch, press tab. The switch function takes multiple parameters. The first one is expression. Expression is nothing but the cell value which we are going to convert to a different result. So let me select the cell D2, comma. The value is the value which we are going to convert to a new result. So we want to convert the value M into a different value called male. So type comma and the result would be male. So essentially with this expression, if the value in D2 is M, we are going to convert that to male. Using the same logic, let us convert the value F also to female. So if the cell value is F, let me now convert that value to female and print the value as female. Also keep in mind that the switch function is case insensitive. Even if the value F is in lowercase, it will still convert the lowercase value to female and lowercase m to male. So now the bracket is closed, press enter. Now as you can see, the value m has now been converted to male. Let me now go to the corner of the cell and apply the formula to the remaining cells. After double clicking, you notice that the value for female is showing as NA and the value for male is showing as NA. That is because we have not included male and female in the formula. So let us fix that. So go to the cell again, double click. Now we just have a mapping for M and F. However, we also need to have a mapping for male and female. So if the cell value is male, just print the result as male only. And if the cell value is female, print the result as female only. Close double quote and press enter. Now let me apply the changes to the rest of the cells. Go to the corner and double click. Now you can notice that all the non-standard values like F and M have all been converted to standard values. So now let me copy the contents of this temp column and then paste it on the gender column. So select the first cell under temp, press Ctrl Shift down arrow to select the entire column, press Ctrl C and then go to the first cell under the gender, right click and paste the values. Now let me select the temp column and delete. Save the worksheet. During our data file inspection, we noticed that the age column contained negative values which are invalid. It contained text values and also it has blanks. So in the next step, we are going to identify how many values are negative, how many contain text values and how many are blanks. So let me only select negative values in this filter box, text values and blanks. Press OK. As you see that there are not too many values which are in the text format. Since we know what they mean, we can simply convert these text values into numbers. So let me convert 22 into number. So let me type 22 in the cell. 30 will be 30. Then we have 22 once again, 30, then 31, followed by 35, and finally the last text value is 30. So with that, we are only left with negative numbers and blanks. Let me reapply the filter to only include negative values and blanks. Press OK. Now we have 2 blank values and then we have 4 negative values. Let me delete the negative values as well because there is no value in keeping negative values under the age column. So I will delete the values -5, -5, -3 and -3. So now essentially we have 6 blank values and we need to impute the age for these missing values. So let me select the filter and select all the values and press OK. One of the ways we can compute the missing values, or it is also called impute missing value, is using a median. So we can now use median function to impute the missing value for the age column. In order to impute the median, let me now go to the end of the column and type is equal to median, press enter, and it takes series of numbers for which we are required to impute the median. So what I will do is I will select all the cells in the column age and then find out the median for the age column. So the age column begins with E2 and then ends in E315. So we have now selected the entire age column, and for this we are now going to compute a median value. Close the bracket, press enter. The median value for the age column turns out to be 31. So this is the value we are going to use and replace the blank values with the value 31. So now let me go to the top of the column, select the blank values in the filter and press OK. And wherever we have blanks, just type 31. Delete the temporary variable here. The missing values under the age has now been computed. Now, as you can see, we do not have any missing values for age. We will now move on to the next column, the city column. Visually, the names of the cities look fine. I do not see any garbage values in this column, except for the fact that some of the city names are in lowercase. We can easily convert these lowercase city names into proper case using the Excel's proper function, which I already demonstrated while cleaning up the customer name column. So let us now move on to the next column, which is the feedback date column. The feedback date columns contains date values. The first value is 45,000. This looks like it is in a serial number format. The second value is in an actual date format. The third value looks like a date format, but actually is in a text format. The next value following that is a serial number and so on. So the values which are in the actual date format and the serial number format looks okay. The problem is with the date values which are in the text format. For example, March 16, 2023 is in the text format, and we need to convert these values into serial number. So finally, we will be converting all the values to a serial number format, and they will all look like the first one, 45,000. So let me start by inserting a new column. So select the column H next to the feedback date column, right click and insert. So let me name this column as temp. Now, as I said earlier, the first two dates are fine. The objective is to convert these two dates into serial number. So let us start with the value March 16 and 2023. So in order to convert the value into serial number, we will be using multiple functions. Let me now use the function text And then for time being, let me hard code the value. I will type 16th March 2023 in double quote, and the format I want the text to display will be in DD, MM, and YY format. Double quote, close the bracket, and press enter. We have now converted the month, day, year into proper date format. Let me now remove the hard-coded value. In order to remove the hard-coded value, we need to extract the date, month, and year from the cell values G4 using the left, right, and mid function. So let me get rid of the hard-coded value. I want the date value to be appearing first. So let me use the mid function because the date value is in the middle of the text G4. So type mid and press tab. For the text value, let me select the cell G4, type comma, and the mid value, which is the date value, starts from 5th character and it spans 2 characters. So let me type 2, which are the number of characters, close the bracket. So the function mid G4, 5, 2 now returns the date value 16. After this, I need to concatenate the date value with the month value. To concatenate, I am going to use the ampersand character. Following that, I will use the left function. From the left function, I am going to extract the first 3 characters from the cell value G4. So select G4, comma, type the number of characters we want to extract. In this case, we want to extract 3 characters. Type 3 and close the bracket. Now we have extracted the date value and we have extracted the month value and we have concatenated both of them. Now finally, we need to get the year value from the text. So type ampersand. To get the year value from the text, let me use write function. Type write, press tab, open the bracket and select the cell value G4, type comma, and we need to now extract 4 characters because the number of characters taken by the year portion is 4. So type 4 characters, close the bracket and press enter. The resulting value in this cell is actually a text value which needs to be converted to date. So in order to convert the text value to date, let me use date value function. The date value function takes the date text and we already have the date text which is returned by the text function. So go to the end of the cell and close the bracket, press enter. So as you can see, the value March 16, 2023 has now been converted to a serial number. Let me apply the same formula to the other 2 cells. And as you can see, we get an error value for these 2 cells. And that is because we need to make some additional changes to the functions we just created. This function applies to the cells only which are in the format of month, day, and year. This formula won't apply for other cells which are actual serial numbers. The date type is a serial number and this is anyway a serial number. We should not be applying the date value function to these 2 cells. So let me make the change so that the function applies to only this specific cell or the cells of these types. So type is equal to if, press tab, then type is number, select the cell G4, close the bracket, and then type is equal to false, which means if the cell is not a number, in this case March 16, 2023 is not a number, if that is true, then we apply the date value function, and if that is not true, then we are going to simply return the cell value as it is, which is G4. So let us review the function. If is number is equal to false, that means if the cell contains non-numeric value or text value, then this condition is true. If this condition is true, then we are applying the function DATEVALUE, and the DATEVALUE function converts the text value, which is in the cell G4, into a date format. And then if the cell value is numeric value, or if the cell value is a serial number, then we will simply return the value in that serial number. Now press enter. Now apply the same formula to the remaining two cells, and as you can see, the value G2 is simply copied over to H2. The value in G3 is converted to a serial number. Now we can apply the same formula to the remaining cells. Now just double click at the corner of the cell to apply the formula to the rest of the cells. And at this point, the same formula has been applied to all the cells. As you can see, some of the cells have got improper formatting. So let me correct them. April 5, let me remove comma. This is supposed to be APR. So that is now converted to serial number. This looks improper. So this is actually 7th April 2023. Let me convert this to APR 7 2023. So that is done. This value is 20 April 2023. Let me also change that to April 20, 2023. That's also taken care of. And this one is 20 June 2023. So let me type June 20, 2023. So that's also taken care of. We have one more, 20 July 2023. So July 20, 2023 is also taken care of. So at this point, we will copy the entire contents of the temp column and paste it as a value to the feedback column. Select this, right click and delete. Now we can select this entire column starting from first cell to the last, go to the top here and then click short date. Now the entire contents of the feedback column has been converted to a consistent date format. Next, let us move to the satisfaction score column. The satisfaction score column contains scores provided by the customers. Customers have provided their scores in a variety of formats. Some of them have been given in the text format like high, low, medium, etc. Some are given in the numeric format and some are in the star format. Now the objective is to convert these formats into a standard format which should be in the numeric form. So let me start by creating a new column here. Select the column I. Next to the satisfaction score column, right click and insert a blank column. Name it as temp. The next step, select the first cell under satisfaction score. Press Ctrl Shift down arrow. Press Ctrl C to copy the contents of the column. At the bottom, insert a new sheet and then paste the values. Let me now remove duplicates from this column. Select the Data tab. In the Data tab, click the Remove Duplicates button. Uncheck My Data has headers and press OK. 25 unique values remain. Now sort these values by going to Data tab. Click the Sort button. Click the Sort button from largest to smallest so that we get in the descending order. Let us now convert these values to numeric form. let us keep high as 4, 3 emojis as 3, very high as 5, very low 1, very high is 5, very dissatisfied is 1, satisfied is 3, poor 1, not good 1, medium 3, low is 1, highly satisfied is 5, good is 3, fair is 3, excellent is 5, average 3, and then similarly we have 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, and the scores will remain as they are. Let me copy this and paste it here. So here is the mapping between the non-standard scoring to the numeric values. So essentially, we want to use the switch function to convert these non-standard values into standard numeric values shown to the right. Let me demonstrate with an example. Suppose I want to convert high into numeric value 4. I will use the switch function, something like this. Type switch, select the cell value, comma, type high, comma, 4. So this expression converts the value high into 4, as you see here. Now, we need to convert multiple values into their corresponding numeric values. So let me prepare the content for the switch function. So in order to do that, let me first concatenate the values in the column A and column B. So type is equal to, use double quote. I need to use double quote 4 times, then select the value in the cell A1. Then again use concatenation operator, enter 4 double quotes. Then we need to concatenate that with comma. Then once again concatenate that with the resulting cell, which is B1. And finally introduce one more comma at the end. This function has now concatenated the values in the cell A with the value in the cell B. So let me apply the same formula for the remaining cells. So there we have. Let me further extend to include the other cells which contain stars as well. Finally, we need to extend the same formula to these as well. However, these are numeric values, so we need to remove double quotes from the formula. So let me remove the double quote. So in order to do that, let me first take the value here in the cell A, then simply concatenate that with comma, and then again concatenate that with the result value, which is 5. So this should give us 5, 5. Then let me extend that same formula to the other cell, and that's it. I forgot to introduce one more comma at the end. Let me concatenate with the last comma and extend the formula to the other cell. We would not want comma in the last cell. So these values are going to be an input to the switch function. So let me further concatenate all these values. Let me type is equal to, this time I'm going to use concat function and select all these values, close the bracket and press enter. Now right click this and copy the contents. In the next cell following that, right click and just paste the values. So this is our final input to the switch function. So as you can see, the switch function will read high and convert that to number 4. It will read smilage and it will convert to 3. It will read very high, convert it to 5, and so on. So let me now copy the contents of this and then go back to our clean data set. In the 10th column, Under I2, type is equal to switch, press tab. The expression is the cell value, type comma, and then paste the contents that we just copied. So now the switch function will read the value h2, which is high, and if the value is high, it will print 4. If it contains smileys, it will convert it to 3, very high, to 5, very low, to 1, and so on. This is the mapping that we have defined and covers all the contents of the cell. We are now ready to go. Press enter. So high is now converted to 4. Just drag this and apply for the remaining cells. As you can see, all the values have now been converted to their numeric equivalent. So now select the cell under temp, select Ctrl Shift and down arrow, press Ctrl Z to copy the contents, and then come to the satisfaction score and right click, paste the values. We have now converted the non-standard values to a standard numeric values for the column satisfaction score. At this point, we can now go ahead and delete the temp call. Save the file. Next, let us clean up the phone number column. As you notice, the phone number column contains phone numbers in variety of formats. For example, the first one has open bracket, close bracket. There are spaces here. There is a hyphen character. The next is just a numeric number. Then the third one seems to be a negative number. Then there are phone numbers which contains only spaces. We have phone numbers with +1 prefix, and there are others with dot characters. So essentially, our goal is to convert these non-standard formats into just one standard. In order to do that, we want to convert all these phone numbers to just a numeric number. That means we want to remove the non-numeric characters from the phone number, so that ultimately we are left with just numbers. So in order to do that, let me first introduce a new blank column. So select the column J next to the phone number, right click, and then insert a blank column. Let me name the column as temp. In order to remove the non-numeric characters, I am going to use the function substitute. So let me type substitute and then press tab. The first parameter is the cell. The second parameter is the character which I want to remove. In this case, let me start with the open bracket character, comma. I want to replace the open bracket with empty string. So I'm going to type empty string here, close the bracket and press enter. Now you can notice that the empty string has now been removed, but we have to also remove the open bracket, space, and hyphen characters as well. So let me introduce, or let me add one more substitute function. This is going to be a nested substitute. So the parameter for the second substitute is our previous substitute function, which is going to be the text value. Now go to the edge of the cell, press comma. The old text is now nothing but our closing bracket, comma. We want to replace the closing bracket with empty text. So type empty string and close the bracket. Now the open bracket and close bracket both have been removed. Let me continue on the same lines and nest one more substitute function. Let me type substitute and press tab, go to the end of the cell, type comma. This time the old text is space and the new text is empty string. Close the bracket. Now space is gone. Let me repeat that with one more substitute function, open bracket, then go to the edge of the screen, type hyphen. Hyphen will be now replaced with the new text, which is empty string. Close the bracket. Now the first cell is now completely converted to numeric value. However, we have other non-numeric values like plus, then there is a dot operator. Let us remove them as well. So let me introduce one more substitute here. Type substitute, tab, and go to the edge. Type dot character. Now the dot character will be replaced with empty string like usual. Close the bracket and then press enter. We also have plus character. Let me add one more substitute. Let me go to the beginning of the cell, type substitute, tab, go to the end, type plus, close the bracket, close the double quote, comma, the new text is empty string, and close the bracket. Let me now apply this formula to the remaining cells. So you can see all the non-numeric characters from these cells have been removed. Now let me apply the formula to all the cells. You can see the formula has been applied to all the remaining cells and none of them contain non-numeric characters. However, you will notice some of the cells have +1 prefix carried over from this formatting. We will now remove the first character. What I will do now is, let me first copy the contents of the 10th column. Select the first cell under phone number, right click, and then paste values. So paste values, that is done. Now delete the contents of the 10th column. Now in order to remove the first character, one of the ways we can achieve that is to extract the last 10 characters. Since the phone numbers supposed to be just 10 characters, excluding the country code, we can safely assume that the phone numbers, the actual phone numbers contain 10 characters. Let me use the write function in order to extract the last 10 characters. So I typed write function, select the text, comma, and in the number of characters, let me enter 10, close the bracket and press enter. Let me now apply the formula for the rest of the cells. And as you see, the prefix 1 is now gone from this text. Here as well, it is gone. Now let me copy the contents of the 10th column again. Press Ctrl-Shift down arrow in order to select the contents. Now go to the first cell under phone number column and right click and select the paste values. That is very important. Don't select the first option, select the paste values only. Now this time you can again select the contents of the 10th column and delete. Now as you notice, the Excel is complaining that the contents of this cell is text. So let us convert all the cells from text format to numeric format. I selected all the cells under phone number. Now click on the drop down here. Then click convert to number. So the contents have now been converted to number. Once again, select all the contents by selecting the first cell and use Ctrl-Shift down arrow. At this point, you can right click anywhere and then select Format Cells. Now in the Format Cells dialog, select the last item under category, which is the custom. In the type edit box, remove the general text, type +1 space, open bracket, then type 3 hash characters, close the bracket, then type 4 hash characters, then type 3 hash characters, then type hyphen followed by 4 hash characters. So this is the format we like to see the contents of the phone number. Press OK. Now as you can see that all the phone numbers are now in a uniform format and some of the phone numbers look invalid We can later decide if these have to be deleted or corrected. Let me now delete the temp column. Select the temp column and delete. We will now move to the product category column. The product category column is the categorical data, and it has limited set of values, as you can see in the drop down. It has values like books, clothing, clothes, electronics, and furniture, and so on. The objective is to correct the typos in some of these categorical values. Like we will correct clothes into clothing, we will correct electronics into electronics, and there is a missing E in the furniture item. Let us do that. We don't need any Excel formula. It's a very simple action. Let us use the find and replace option in Excel. So let me first select the contents of this column and then press Ctrl H on your keyboard. The Ctrl H keyboard brings up the find and replace dialog. So we saw that one of the text value was electronics. Let us find the value. Here we go. This is electronics. We have to replace electronics with electronics. So we will now go ahead and click the replace all button. But before that, let me check the match case and also check match entire cell contents. Now click on the replace all button. So as you can see, Excel has found 42 values containing incorrect text and it has replaced with the corrected text. Press OK. Let us inspect and find out if we have gotten rid of the electronics. Yeah, we have gotten rid of electronics item here. Next, we will replace clothes with clothing. Again, select the entire contents. Press Ctrl H on your keyboard. Type clothes and the replacement text will be clothing. Let us first find the value. Yeah, we have values here, one here, and the next one is here, and so on. Now at this point, we have the match case and match entire contents checked. That is fine. Now click the replace all button and the clothes text has now been replaced with clothing. So there were 29 values that have been replaced. Let us take a look at the items once again. We are now left with the last one, which is furniture. So we need to make sure the furniture contains E at the end. So again, select the contents, press Ctrl H, type furniture without E, furniture without E. That must be replaced with proper text with E. Let us find the first item. Yes, then we have second item. Yeah, we have more than one. At this point, now we can click on the replace all button. Looks like there were only two items, so they have been replaced. Press OK. Close the dialog. Let us take a look at the items here in the filter. As you can see, we have cleaned up all the items here which contained incorrect text. We are now left with just one column to clean up, and that is the email ID column. As you can see, the email ID column has several problems. For example, there is an email ID Jane @ symbol, and this email ID does not have either email domain or the top level domain. So by top level domain, I mean something like .com. For example, in this first email ID, we have .com, and that is called top level domain. Neither does it have an email domain. For example, in this email, you can see the email ID has @Gmail. @Gmail is the email domain. And there are email IDs like bob@.com that does have the top level domain. However, it does not have the email domain in it. And likewise, there are other problems. For example, this email mike.davis@ ends with just @ similar to Jane @. Then there are email IDs which end with hash, for example, logan.perez. And there are email IDs which end with hash mail. And there are also email IDs which end with hash email. So these type of IDs do not contain email domain or the top level domain. So let us filter out these type of email IDs and then add the email domain and the top level domain to them. So the cleanup exercise is very elaborate. So let me copy the contents of this email column and then create a new sheet to work these out. Let me auto fit the column. So let us first identify those email IDs which have issues. That means email IDs which do not contain either the email domain or the top level domain. So let us apply a set of functions to identify those. I have already built such function. I'm going to just paste it here to save time. Now let me walk you through the function. So what this function does is there is an if function and there is an or function, but essentially these are the functions which identify the last few characters in that email ID. For example, the write function, it tries to find email IDs which end with only @ symbol. And this function, write, it identifies email IDs which ends with hash. This one will identify IDs with hash mail and hash email. So with this, we will be able to identify all such email IDs which do not have either email domain or top level domain. So let me now apply this to other cells. And as you can see, the function has identified emails which do not contain top level domain or email domain. Now the next step is to add the email domain and the top level domain to these IDs. So there is another set of functions which I have already built. Let me copy and paste those functions. Here is a set of functions. What these functions do is very similar to how the function which identified these email IDs. We are now checking the last character. If it is ampersand, to that email ID, we are going to suffix an hard-coded string called email domain.tld. We do not know what this email domain.tld is. However, once we get that information, we can easily replace that with a proper email domain and the top level domain. For now, email domain.tld is just a placeholder. Similarly, for email IDs which end with hash, we are doing the same thing. We are adding @email domain.tld, and for email IDs which end with hash mail, we are again doing the same thing @email domain.tld, and even for this pattern, we are going to suffix with @email domain.tld. So let me apply the function. Now let me apply the set of functions to the remaining cells. And as you can see, these email IDs which were missing the top level domain and the email domain now contain both that information. As you can see, this information. These email IDs have been now cleaned up. The next step is to fill these gaps. For that, I just need to make some adjustments to the formula. At the end, you can see here, if none of these conditions are met, then it executes an empty string. Instead of an empty string, let me print the actual cell value. Press enter. Now apply the formula for the remaining cells. For example, what I meant was for the email IDs which were missing email domain and top level domain, the function will apply both of them. But for those email IDs which do have the top level domain and the email domain, they are unaffected. They are printed as they are. Let me apply the functions to remaining cells. Now we have cleaned up several email IDs. However, we still have several emails in this set which do not contain the top level domain. The next step is to identify email IDs which do not contain top level domains. For example, there are email IDs like @email which does not have top level domain. There is one which ends with @site. This does not have top level domain. So let me apply another set of functions to identify those email IDs which do not contain the top level domain. I have already built the function. Let me paste it here. And as you can see, this function checks each and every email ID for either .com or .org, .net, .c and .tld. If the email IDs contain none of these top level domains, then it will print that specific email ID. Otherwise, it will print blank. So let me apply this. So the first email ID is fine. Now let me apply these functions to the remaining. So as you can see, all those email IDs which have top level domain are unaffected. Only the ones which do not contain the top level domain, that email ID has been filtered out here. There are many of them, quite a few. The next step is to add the top level domain to such email IDs by suffixing it with .tld suffix. So this requires another set of function which I have already constructed. Let me copy those functions and then paste them here. So what this does is very similar to the previous set of functions which identified the email IDs which were missing the top level domain. So it simply checks all those email IDs which do not contain any of the top level domains. If any such email IDs are found, it will simply suffix .tld suffix and then return the text. Let me press enter here. Now I will apply this to the remaining. So here we have the top level domain suffixed to all those email IDs which do not have the top level domain. So now let me make some changes to this so that I print these email IDs which are correct and already contain the top level domain. I want to print them in the blanks as well. So I will go to the functions. Here instead of blank, I just need to print the cell contents or the email ID as it is. Now, if for all those email IDs which do not contain top level domain, this piece of logic will apply, and for others, it will simply return C2. Let me press enter and double click. Here we go. This is the set of emails which we have cleaned up. For example, earlier it was in this format, which had several problems. Now we have applied series of functions and cleaned up that email step by step, and we have ensured that each of these domains contain email domain as well as top level domain. However, we still have email IDs like bob@.com. We do not know what will be the email domain for such email IDs. Once that will become available, we can work through the next steps to fix that as well. So let me now copy the final cleaned up email IDs and go back to the clean data set. Go to the first cell here, right click and make sure you click paste values only and not the first one. If you click the first one, it will copy the formula as well. So only click this button which says values. Now finally, the email ID column has been cleaned up. So at this point, we have cleaned up everything starting from survey ID to product category. We have been through a lot of steps for each of these columns, and each of these columns took different set of Excel functions and different methods and techniques to clean up. Let me finally compare the original dataset with a cleaned up dataset. The original dataset looked something like this. As you can see, this was a comma separated text value. It contained a lot of unclean data. It contains non-standard values like the stars and emojis and negative values, etc. It contained improper values, like it contained typos in the product category column. So we have taken this into a new sheet. We have applied different techniques and different Excel functions. And finally, we have transformed the dataset into a clean dataset. As the last step, we can also convert this to an Excel table by selecting the entire contents, press Ctrl A, following that press Ctrl T. Now keep this checkbox as checked because we have headers at the top. This is the range of our table. Now press OK. Now as soon as you do that, you get a cleaned up, a transformed and elegant looking data set, which is ready for further analysis and insight. As a final note, I would like to say there is no one silver bullet for data cleaning. As you have observed, we have used several methods and formulas to achieve data cleaning. We may not be able to clean up the data 100% due to limitations such as lack of complete information, but the goal is to make data cleaning as perfect as possible. Please subscribe and stay tuned for more such videos. Thank you.